Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome all you cool ghouls and friendly fiends. Once again, it is the House of the Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pavlansky. With me as always is the maestro of mail order mysteries, Eddie Guevara, and that superstar of horror magic, Chuck Caputo. Gentlemen, what's going on? How's it going today?
All right, pretty good.
Awesome, man. We are coming off of the of Christmas, so I hope everyone out there had a good Christmas. I hope all of our listeners had a good Christmas, and hopefully we were there. Maybe you were playing us in the background while you were opening up your presents that morning. That'd have been really cool. So, yeah. So we are on the week of the last week of 2021. Thankfully, hopefully 2022 will be a lot better. I think every year we hope that the next year will be better, and most of the time it's not. But hey, we can still hope, man. It's like being a Cleveland Browns fan, man. Always next year. So, anyways, man, Chuck, how was your Christmas, and what do you got in store for the upcoming week?
Oh man, it was fantastic. We had we had visited a lot of family members. We slept over Cheri's sister's place, and it was nice seeing everybody. Then we went to a couple other parties afterwards, on Christmas Day. So it was very busy. I actually have one more show to do, believe it or not, before the conclusion of 2021. And as far as New Year's Eve, Joe, I got some homemade kibasi, some pork, and sauerkraut. We're gonna put in the crock pot, and Sci-Fi is playing a marathon as usual of the Twilight Zone, so I can't wait.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a great time. Where's your next show at?
It's at a private party, so it'll be coming up.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's just one more to do, then I'm done.
Hey, that sounds good, man. Yeah, I don't have cable anymore, so I can't watch it, but usually I'll put in the DVDs of the Twilight Zone, but that was always my my go-to for New Year's.
Yeah, you know what? I've always looked forward to it probably for the last 15 years or so, man, because it's, they actually play them from the very beginning, usually to the very end. And so it's like a 36-hour marathon. I mean, it's like crazy, man.
I think this year I got a little bit different going on. My wife and I are going to go to my parents' house, and we're going to watch the Michigan and Georgia game because me and my father are Michigan Wolverine fans. So
nice.
They're playing in the playoff game, and if they win, they'll go to the national championship. And I'm not that big of a football fan, but I thought it was really cool this year with Michigan. They started off not ranked. And then, they battled all the way to number 2. So anytime you could see a team, that fights that much and, does that well, it's always great to see that happening. So I think we'll watch that, and then we'll head home, and I'll probably throw on the Twilight Zone or something until the ball drops and kiss the missus on the New Year's, and you'll go to bed. I'll have a few beers while I play some PlayStation, and that's it, or watch some old horror movies.
Hey, sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so that's no more going out and partying, all hours of the night like we used to back in our,
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Joe, I don't take any shows on New Year's Eve or any major holidays anymore. I think the last show I took on New Year's Eve was probably about 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago. And you know what? There's just a lot of crazy people out there driving around. I don't want to go put myself in that kind of a situation, so
yeah,
I just stay home.
I'd rather stay home too, and I'll have a beer or two and watch some TV, and it's better to just sit at home because you like you said, there's too many crazy people out there driving around out at the bars and everything, and it's better to stick it close to home,
Absolutely
anymore.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's our plans. Eddie, what you got going on? How was your Christmas?
I'll tell you, everything's been going well. Let me put it this way: Christmas is a little bit of a phooey. They gave me clothes, man. I'm upset.
Clothes?
I want toys. Yeah, man. And they only got me 1 or 2. But right now, one good news is that we just got two new subscribers to our channel. I just saw it pop up right now. But anyway, here's the story. It was really interesting. Tonight I head out to have dinner with my friend Jim and Charlie and Michael T there. And we were having dinner, and we were discussing what the topic was going to be on for tonight. on the podcast. And, we're going back and forth about the movies from the 1960s, early 50s, whatever, or late 50s and early 60s, should I say. And across that, my friend Jim gives me a Christmas present that was pretty good. In fact, he might have toppled the list. I've never seen it, but it's called Lugosi, the Forgotten King. And it's with Forrest, your host, Forrest J. Ackerman. It's actually about 2 hours long, and it has the entire story of Lugosi, the movies he did, and his life story. And even Sarah Karloff is in it. So I'm kind of excited to see this. I will also make sure you guys get your own copies of this. It's not available, I think, anywhere and stuff, but I will burn for you guys, because it's just for us. It's a very, very interesting video. Now,
Nice.
another thing I wanted to bring is, the fact that, unfortunately, the Magic set didn't come out before Christmas, but it's coming out in the next day or two. I'm actually uploading tonight the free videos that come there, which is a course that Chuck put together several years ago. And, he sold it throughout his travels and, different shows he did. And it's got, I think, 13 or 15 magic tricks there, Chuck.
13. Yep.
13. And I'm also including a 2-page copies of some tricks that Chuck taught, which were also mentalism. You'll be able to trick your friends and family into thinking you have mysterious powers, that you can read the future. In fact, it's so convincing that a lot of your friends are going to pull you over to the side, Joe and Chuck, and ask you, hey, do you know the lottery tickets for next week? So, I mean, it's pretty convincing. But anyway, that's what I'm up to. And I can't wait to start the list of our movies for this week.
Well, that sounds good, man. I'm excited to go through them. So why don't you go ahead and start it off for us, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, we have a list of 5 movies here. And the 5 movies, we want to see which of you guys rate them and where do you put them. If you haven't watched them, shame on you. Are you a true fanatic? Are you a true sci-fi person? Well, we'll know soon. And I have a feeling Joe might not be that true sci-fi person, because I have a feeling he might not have watched all of them. But the list is 1. I'm going to put the list as to what I think is the best, in my opinion. And
well, it's all Chuck. Do you have a list as well?
Yeah. He told me, the names of the movies and so forth, and I saw most of them. You know what? And I just brushed up on 1 or 2 of them. But yes.
Well, let's start off from number 5 and work our way to number 1.
Okay, number 5. Okay, I was going to work for number 1. Thanks for stopping me. So this way, number 5 to me, I would say, is The Thing from Another World.
Okay.
You want me to
now?
go
why is that your number 5 out of all of them?
Do you want me to tell the whole list from 5 to 1?
No, just why did you put that as your number 5?
The Thing from Another World. The reason I think it's number 5 is it's a great film. It's done. It's phenomenal. The idea behind it has some very good visuals, but you know what? It's kind of like In Search of Bigfoot kind of thing. They find a monster. They melt the monster in the attic up in somewhere in the North Pole, and the creature starts killing the crew. Okay. Now, number 4. Should I go to number 4? You guys want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, we'll go with our number 5. So, Chuck, go ahead with your number 5.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Eddie there. Yeah, I would. I'd definitely put that at number 5.
Okay. All right. Now, why did the same reasons then for Eddie then?
Yeah, I wasn't impressed too much, to be honest with you. I mean, it was okay, and yeah, I just that would be the least of the 5.
Okay. All right. So for my number 5, I have Forbidden Planet from 1956. And I think the reason I went with Forbidden Planet is I just watching it. It was an interesting movie, and I think the concept of the id is very interesting. However, I just wasn't really too impressed with it. Now, I do love the robot. I do love the way that they did the special effects for the id. I thought Leslie Nielsen was fantastic with it, and Francis was fantastic. The cast was great. I just I just really couldn't get into the movie too much. I mean, maybe talk to me next week, and I might have the movie at number 3 or 2 or something like that. But, going through it, and out of these movies that we're going to talk about, I think it's going to have to be my number 5. So that's my reasons.
Okay.
All right, off to you, Eddie. What do you got for number 4?
Well, number 4 for me is Earth. Well, let me put it not I made a mistake there. This island Earth is number 4 for me, and I'll say why. It's got a good idea. Good. It actually took, according to what the sign says, 2.5 years in the making. So the budget was, I heard, pretty high. It was, I don't know, equivalent if Chuck, I believe you told me, was $6 million, or am I talking?
I think that was on the Forbidden Planet.
Okay, on the Forbidden. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty high budget on that one.
It really was. The thing with, and I gotta agree with Joe on that Forbidden Planet, but I'll give you my input when I get to it. So my opinion is, this Island Earth, I like the fact that Russell Johnson, which is a professor from Gilligan's Island, is on it. I like the idea a bit with it. It was done in color. But I will leave that as number 4. I liked it. I liked the idea with it, but it was not that much action. It was a simple plot. I leave it at number 4. So go ahead now, Chuck.
Hey guys, real quick, let me step in here just for our audience so they don't think we're kind of just picking movies at randoms. We have 5 movies that we're choosing from, and I'll let you guys know the movies, and then because we're putting them in our own order. So the movies are let's go in. I'll go in order from when they came out. The Thing from Another World, 1951. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. This Island Earth, 1955. Earth versus the Flying Saucer, 1956, and Forbidden Planet, 1956. So we're choosing which order from. We're going to start off from our number 5 to number 1 of just these movies, of why we liked them, why we didn't like them. I think we all really like the movies, but some better than the others. So just so everyone out there doesn't think that we're just, picking 5 random movies from the 50s or 60s. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But go ahead, Chuck. What do you have out of that list from number 4?
Well, you know what? Eddie and me must be having the same mentalism page here. It's the exact same thing. I love Russell Johnson. I mean, I always thought he was a talented guy. He popped up in different things throughout the years. Probably the most famous, like he said, was Gilligan's Island as the professor. But I mean, it was a decent movie, but I would give it number 4 definitely. Okay,
awesome. All right, so for my number 4, I have This Island Earth from 1955, and I told you I just watched this movie over the summer at the Vandergrift Drive in. On the big screen. It was fantastic. First time I've seen it, and it's a great movie. Some people that you talk to say that's kind of slow in the beginning, and then it picks up really when the Metaluna monster, aliens come out. I thought it was a good movie from start to finish. I didn't think there was really any dull moments. My only gripe with it is you have this great concept of the Metaluna, monsters, aliens, whatever you want to call them, but you only use them for the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and they're only have limited screen time. So that was kind of my only gripe with it. I thought Jeff Morrow was great. Faith Domagru was great. Rex Reason was great. The cast, all that was excellent. The special effects for 55 were really good. The story in general was good in itself. But I would have liked to have seen more of the Metalunas. I think they're really, really cool design. So that's what I got for my number 4. Any well, let's go. What's your number 3, Eddie?
I want to bring in something concerning the number 4, which is across the board for us 3, which is interesting, is the fact that if you look at the mutant, did you guys notice that he's wearing pants?
Yeah.
The reason
Yeah.
is I think they couldn't make the legs for it, or
It's
I
like
forgot.
alien up top, business on the bottom.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I think they just wore pants because they couldn't make the legs for it, and they just cut corners and put pants on them. So
Yeah, but I tell you what, the top parts were great, and the pinchers they had. Like I said, they were a really cool design. It just, man, they should have just been in it a little bit more.
yeah, I agree with you on that. I definitely agree. But anyway, number 3 for me, I would put Forbidden Planet, and I'm going to tell you why Forbidden Planet. Forbidden Planet would be my number 2. I love Robbie the Robot. Forbidden Planet is probably one of the biggest sci-fi movies that was, at the era done, very well written. The story behind it. The thing with Forbidden Planet that I think kind of scared me is that I hate the background psychedelic sound that it had. Throughout the whole film, you hear like, and then at the end, when the force field, the monster goes through, it looked like the Tasmanian devil from Bugs Bunny. So that's kind of me. Other than that, I'm going to give the movie a 1 in one particular side of the field. One of the field here. So one is it's got the best artwork of all the movies we're talking about. 2, not only does it have the best artwork, it also has the best looking flying saucer. So, and the robot is also the best. That's the only thing. But the thing that's kind of also, this is a tidbit that very few people know, is they still don't know who actually drew the cover for that movie or the artwork where the Robbie is carrying the woman. They don't know who actually to credit that to this day. It's not known who painted that, which is bizarre. But that's why it's my number 3. The reason I went to number 3 is the music in the background, and second, the creature kind of looked cartoonish for the whole percept of the movie, because you're looking at it and you think it's like, well, anyway, go ahead, Chuck. What's yours?
Mine would have been Earth versus the flying saucers. You know what? It was a good movie. I think the aliens kind of turned me off a little bit. I mean, their helmets almost look like a melted garbage can lid, like a plastic garbage can lid, and I don't know. They just, the aliens didn't look too hot. I mean, from far away they looked like mushrooms with like long arms, and I like certain parts though. Certain parts where the spaceships flew into the buildings in Washington D.C. and so forth. That was kind of cool, but it wasn't real good, but it was okay. I would give that third place for that one.
All right, cool. All right, so for my third place, I have The Day the Earth Stood Still from 1951. And I kind of put this in the middle because I do think this is a great movie. I mean, this is right at the start. Cold War started a few years before that, so you had all the suspicions going on in the United States and elsewhere. So this movie really kind of touches on the themes of the Cold War, and you're also Roswell was a few years before that, so you have all these anxieties going on in the United States and the world, and I think that this movie kind of really tried to play off of them. And I tell you what, the robot Gort, I thought it was a cool robot just for its simplicity. But it's a good movie. Like I said, this is another one that talk to me next week, and it might be at number 2. So I was really trying to figure out where to put this, and I decided kind of right in the middle. But yeah, I mean it's great. Michael Rennie's great as Klaatu, which is a great character in itself. One of the classic sci-fi characters, and the robot. Gort is obviously another one that's very anyone that watches sci-fi movies and sees that robot knows exactly where it's from. So that's what I got at my number 3. All right, number 2, Eddie, what do you got?
Well, here is an interesting thing. The reason I pick Earth versus the flying saucers is I know the premises. I know the aliens look kind of crappy, but the whole scene was actually built by Ray Harryhausen. where you see the spaceship crashing to the White House. I love the flying saucer of it, and I like the artwork that it portrays. I think the whole storyline of it was pretty cool. I mean, that's the only thing that turns off is the aliens, but you know what? It was black and white. It reminds me of the Earth, the day, the day the Earth stood still. I did enjoy the movie. I just like the flying saucers and the way it's portrayed in Washington. And then when they disintegrate the tanks and stuff, I kind of really, I would put it in number 2 because I did enjoy that film.
Okay, awesome. All right, Chuck, what do you got for number 2?
The number 2 slot, really cool movie, man. You know what? I always enjoyed watching it. I haven't seen it for a while, but The Forbidden Planet. That's a really cool movie, man. It just appealed to me. I like the whole concept. Dr. Morbius went there on a scouting team 20 years prior, and he found this civilization of the Krill, and it was just really neat. It was just a cool concept. I like the idea about the id also, because that gets into modern psychology. You know what I mean? And Dr. William Roll, who was one of the leading parapsychologists, he passed away. He said that that's what a poltergeist is. Basically, we're creating these noisy ghosts, via, like the minds of, it seems like, a mostly like a teenage type of a kid, plays the most role in this. Like if you track down like the history of the poltergeist, it goes back to like teenagers for some reason. I thought the whole concept was cool about the movie. I love Robbie the Robot. I mean, that transporter, that taxi type of thing that he had was really, really neat. I like the actors in there. I think one of the people, if possibly the only one still alive, is Earl Hallerman. I think he's about 92, 93 years old. He started in the very first Twilight Zone. I can't remember the name of it, but he went to a town that was completely vacant, and there was like a hot cup of coffee, like in a diner. There was a cigar that was sitting there that was still smoking, but there was no people there. It was a really, really cool concept there. Anne Francis did a great job on there as well. She was in 2 Twilight Zones, one where she played a mannequin, and I can't remember the other one right now. But yeah, that would be my number 2 pick.
Okay, awesome, man. Great. All right, so for my number 2, I have Earth versus the Flying Saucers, 1956. Like Eddie said, the stop motion special effects were by Ray Harryhausen, and they were fantastic. I mean, just seeing some of these flying saucers, crashing into and destroying some of our most iconic, structures in the United States. If it doesn't resonate or hit a spot with you now, imagine being in the early 1950s. Like I said, you're at the height of the Cold War. You're fresh off of Roswell. Science fiction is just absolutely booming with the flying saucer, hysteria going around. And then you have this movie coming out showing flying saucers coming from outer space and destroying, our Capitol or Washington Monument. I mean, I can only imagine, being a kid or even an adult, watching this movie back then, because it would really resonate with you and kind of probably really scare you. And I tell you what's really cool about this is that it's based off the 1953 book Flying Saucers from Outer Space by Major Donald Kehoe, and he was real big into UFO study and UFO culture. He co-founded NICAP, which is the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, in 1956. So right around when the movie came out, and they were real big at starting the whole phase and all that of scientifically researching UFOs and publishing magazines and stuff on UFOs and really looking into what they are, rather than just being kind of like a fanboy of flying saucers and little green men and all that. So he really took it seriously, and he had the backing to take it seriously from being in the military and all that. So if you guys never heard of NICAP or anybody out there, or Major Donald Kehoe, definitely look him up and take a look at his career and everything that he started in the UFOs, because it was really the forerunner for what we have now, MUFON and a few of the other groups that are out there. So he was one of the ones at the spearhead of really looking into these phenomenons. So that's what I got at my number 2 and just a little bit about it. All right, Eddie, you're number 1. What do you got?
Well, let me bring another face on number 2 there. Let me just say another thing about it. One is, I just watched yesterday, one film I watched was Olympus Has Fallen. I think with Russell Crowe, if I'm correct, the actor.
Yeah.
The film was phenomenal. It's kind of funny with the similarities where they knocked down the Washington Monument through one of the helicopters or something that crashed in it, or the plane. I thought that was kind of funny because Earth versus the Flying Saucer has that. But anyway, going forward, my number 1, and I'll say why, is one, there's 3 things about The Day the Earth Stood Still that make it my number 1. Okay? One, I like Michael Rennie. Michael Rennie became one of my favorite actors when he acted as the keeper in Lost in Space. Now, having been a kid in the 70s and watching Lost in Space every day after television, after school, there was one thing that resonated with me always. The robot, Will Robinson, and the laser pistol. Because of that, I fell in love with the How to Build Your Own Laser Pistol from the Johnson Smith Company, because it looked like the one from Lost in Space. I always wanted my robot, and that's why, yes, Joe, I want to search for the robot plans.
Take a drink.
Because I've always loved robots. And what made me fall in love with robots was the Lost in Space robot, B9. At first, Robbie the robot was scary to me because when it appeared as the robot toy in the episode, the robot Battle of the Robots, I think it's called, from Lost in Space, he was a bad robot. He was found in some foreign planet. Will Robinson, again, my idol at the time, fixes the robot against everybody's will. They told him to leave it alone. B9 kept warning, don't fix it. So apparently he fixed it, and then he was a conniving robot trying to win over the Robinson family, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously at the end of the episode, B9 fights the Robbie the robot, and he wins. But it was kind of funny, though, because Robbie was a little more powerful than him. And every time the fight would go on with the music, I would put my feet up again on the sofa because I was scared. But the thing also that brought this movie home to me is because the kid in the movie kind of acts a little bit like Will Robinson.
Definitely, yeah.
He goes back and forth. And so I can compare both films kind of like in the same genre. Now, I know my friend Jim said, well, it was in black and white. And I was going to say, well, the problem is when I came and I was small in the 70s, excuse me, in the 70s, my television was black and white. So I watched everything in black and white.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really realize that Lost in Space was in color because I just didn't have a color television. So the point is that here you have also Michael Rennie. Michael Rennie played the keeper in Lost in Space, another phenomenal episode in where Dr. Zachary Smith accidentally knocks down this trailer where all these weird monsters start coming out from. And you could see that they reused the same makeup and stuff from different movies, like from the Twilight Zone, because the monsters are very well known throughout different other sci-fi movies of the time. But that area also made me raise my feet up on the sofa because it was scary the way all the monsters came out of the thing. So having said that, when I watched later on in life, when I was a little older and I watched The Day the Earth Stood Still, it made the film phenomenal. Awesome idea behind it. Awesome graphics. The woman was really pretty. The guy goes and he goes among, and then you have an Einstein kind of professor, which also reminds me of the professor from Gilligan's Island, where he's trying to solve this equation. The point is that the film from beginning to end really, really was very entertaining, and I probably seen it about 15 times. I really enjoyed the film. I also enjoy another thing. I'm a fanatic of the old-fashioned Jeeps, like what they call the Willys, that have the big steering wheel and stuff like that. And that's so. I honestly, everything in that movie I like. Gort as a robot, yeah, I'm more fond of Lost in Space. I'm more fond of Robbie, But I gotta say, though, Court was kind of cool. The way the visor would open up and he had a laser shooting out of there. So I could say, I like Gort as well. But it would be Robbie. And again, as I got older, I realized how good Robbie was, and I like Robbie the robot. So he kind of overwhelmed the fact that he overtook in my life from B9. So I would put Robbie first, B9, which was always my favorite robot. In fact, as a kid, I used to make copies of him with newspapers, and I would actually put it together with tape and make like 3D models of the Lost in Space B9 robot. But like I said, as time went on, I started liking Robbie more. It's better made. It looks like a cooler robot. It's all black, and B9 became my second. But I would say Gort is the third in my feelings, in my the way I like robots. And of course, the robot plans fall in the book there somewhere. If anybody has them, please let me know, man. Connect me at houseoftheunusual.com. I really want those plans. But other than that, you know what? That's where I stand. So my number one would definitely be The Day the Earth Stood Still. Unfortunately, Jim, my friend, doesn't feel the same way. He feels The Thing from Another World is number one.
Yeah.
But I gotta say though, I agree with Chuck on that. So go ahead, you go, Chuck.
Yeah, definitely. My number one out of these five anyway is The Day the Earth Stood Still. It was just very, very well written. I love Patricia Neal in there. She did a bang up job. Michael Rennie. Gort is very, very cool. I mean, man, just the idea of him just standing there and nobody could really do anything. With his helmet, and I like the little light going back and forth, almost what's called a Larson scanner nowadays. It's just a cool concept. The young boy in there was neat. You know what, the whole concept was very, very neat. It was overall well written. You know what, I could watch that movie probably maybe 2 or 3 times a year. It's a really cool movie.
All right, awesome. All right, so for my number one, I have The Thing from Another World, sometimes referred to as just The Thing, from 1951. And I tell you why I put this at number one. And like I said, this could really switch places with Earth versus the Flying Saucer, but I really had to put it at number one for these reasons. So, the world, the United States in particular, just came off of World War II, 1945. You had Roswell in 1947, and everybody's, they're coming, they're still coming down from the impact of all these things going on in the world. You're at the start of the Cold War now, so you're skeptical of everyone. You don't know who's a spy, who's an undercover, communists and all there. You have McCarthyism going on, and it's the world's kind of going crazy, but it's still kind of trying to rebuild.
Right.
And then you have this movie come out, The Thing from Another World, and it's terrifying. You have all these people that are in the Arctic. They're alone. They're secluded from the rest of the world, and here's this alien. Nobody at the time knows what aliens look like. There's no kind of really concept except for what they've seen in the pulps and all that, and some of the serials and some of the early movies. But when James Arness comes out as The Thing, he's absolutely frightening. And there's so many underlining themes in this movie of communism and McCarthyism that I could see people that are watching this just being absolutely terrified, for those reasons, along with special effects and the story in general. So they're getting hit from a lot of different directions with this. And I think it really works because it's not kind of like, it's not really in your face. They're very underlined, and you kind of have to have either been living in that time, to understand them, or have to know a little bit about that period to understand, what's going on in that movie. And there's the guy that plays Ned Scotty Scott, Douglas Spencer. He has the last few sentences in the movie where he's talking to a broadcaster. And I tell you what, this is very scary because now it resonates to, even today. And he tells the broadcaster tell the world, tell this to everybody, wherever they are. Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking, keep watching the skies.
Yeah.
I mean, how fantastic is that? I mean, it's terrifying and fantastic at the same time. I mean, I think it's just a great movie. And there's the book Who Goes There, from 1938 by John Campbell Jr. It's definitely on my list to read, because I really want to see how they changed up the movie from the book, because I know it's kind of loosely based off of it. They had to put their own kind of stuff in it, and a lot of people don't really realize is that at the time, really during World War II, and even a little bit prior to that, but in World War II and through the Cold War, is that the government played a huge role in Hollywood in putting out propaganda to help them with the war effort, to help them with, fighting communists and all that. So there's really a lot of it in these movies, especially in the 50s and the 60s, these sci-fis and all that. And, if you do a little bit of reading, if people out there aren't sure about that time period, read a little bit about communism, to go back and watch these movies, and you'll really find that there's a lot of these underlining themes for, communism, McCarthyism, don't trust your neighbors, you don't know who is who. And it's really crazy. Did you guys find that out too, with these movies from the 50s?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point, Joe. Yeah, you're exactly right. There is underlying messages in there. Absolutely, positively.
Yeah, and I can only imagine, living at the time, and even today we have movies, today's movies, they don't really have the underlying message. They try to throw them in your face, and it really takes the artistic value out of a lot of these movies.
Right.
Whereas these older movies, they had the political and the social messages in them, but they weren't in your face. They ran with the movies. They were very artistic in what they were doing. And I think that's great. I'm all for that, as long as it's in an artistic way. I don't like stuff being thrown in my face.
No, exactly.
But the way that they did these in the 50s, if you didn't really know about it, you wouldn't, understand it, unless, like I said, you were living at that time, or you kind of studied, what was going on during that time frame.
Hey, the one thing I wanted to mention, Joe, I speaking of aliens, I did watch your Susie Snowflake, and I know you sent me a photograph, but in one of the previous podcasts we had talked about the commercial. You know what? If anybody out there is listening and you'd like to check this out, go on YouTube and look up Susie Snowflake. Wow, she did look like a gray. You're right. The face on her was just it was just like an amorphous face. I mean, there was nothing there, and it was just a bizarre. It was a bizarre commercial. I mean, that thing would have scared the crap out of me if I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's real weird. I kind of wonder if the makers of that movie did that on purpose, to kind of maybe scare people stuff. But yeah, it's really weird. I was just watching it. I was watching the Monster Channel earlier today while I was doing some other stuff, and Susie Snowflake came on, and along with Hard Rock Coco and Joe, and I had to watch them both again. But yeah, she's just that alien face. It is almost like an alien coming down. An alien gray with these wings and floating around the the snowflake.
I showed that commercial to my wife, and she even said, "Ooh, that's a terrible commercial. Yeah, rap a tap tap at your window," and it was just a bizarre commercial, man. I didn't see any kind of appeal to it for kids at all.
Yeah.
When you guys say all that, and Joe, and you said about the underlying messages in a lot of those old-fashioned, I guess it goes back probably in things like, for example, when you have writers like Edgar Allan Poe, all the stories that he wrote had an underlying message of who he really was, I guess. And I think it went as far as the early 60s or late 60s, where like Batman and Robin, every time you see the original Batman and Robin, there was always some underlying message, especially for kids. Like, Robin, do not cross the road. Look both ways,
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because you never caught it as a kid, really. But they had those underlying messages. And I don't know.
It hit your subconscious.
Right. And I don't know if you guys, like, there's one particular movie, and I'm sure, Joe, you've heard it. What is it called? The Screaming Skull
Oh yeah.
That they all have this underlying. They used to call it. There was a name for it. That it would give you a message, but you have to like kind of would go into your brain. You know what I'm talking about, Joe?
You talk about like telekinesis?
No. Like movies like The Skull, The Screaming Skull, that it says outside the box where when you buy the videotape, I remember it said something that the name of it is something psychological. It had like a built-in idea, built-in thing that was trying to impress the audience. There is a name for that. Like they try to scare you, basically trick your brain into being scared by what there was a name for that. Joe, if you have a computer, you could probably look it up. But anyway, yeah, there was always an underlying message in those movies and stuff. And I think probably in the early 70s, they stopped doing that. Because you did have like, cartoons like Fat Albert. A lot of those cartoons had underlying messages to try to teach kids the right thing. But I agree with you on that, Joe, when you said and stuff and the way that some of those movies were in a way scary, such as that Snowflake, which it is weird because it is kind of like a faceless doll, which again, I wonder if whoever did it had something to do with the Amish dolls. Maybe they read something. I mean, because a lot of times when you watch cartoons growing up and stuff, all the cartoons had some type of political thing in them, especially the Bugs Bunny and Popeye cartoons. But if you look at anything growing up or anything in the 70s, early 80s and stuff, there was always some type of thing that they would somehow put in movies with some type of message. I think where it started losing when, like say, Halloween started becoming famous, the movie Halloween, Michael Myers. And it went on and on and on. Then things became repetitive. There was really no underlying messages anymore. It was simply the same thing being repeated over and over and over again just to make money out of the same thing, like Star Wars. I mean, a lot of people, I grew up in Star Wars when Star Wars first came out. I saw it in the movie theater. And I was like, wow, Star Wars. But, after a while, how many times can you sell Star Wars? How many times are you going to do the same thing over and over? And I mean, I do have an original Luke Skywalker action figure. I have an original Super 8 200 foot black and white film, silent. I have that stuff. But to be honest with you, it means nothing to me, even though some people will pay hundreds of dollars for it. But I don't see it's not for me though. For me, it has very little meaning. And I think they just burned out. And that's what I think happened in the 80s. They just ran out of ideas and they just took the same thing and repeated it over and over. I mean, how many Halloweens can come out? How many Exorcists can come out?
Oh yeah, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th is the same thing over and over again. Is one guy comes out, kills everybody, saw threes, and then they get so grotesque and stuff. Like, and honestly, come on, man. In fact, I guarantee you half of the stuff that happens out there is because how grotesque the films have been. When we look back at the days of the 1940s and 50s, when you had Alfred Hitchcock, and you, for example, have a shadow of a guy plunging a knife into somebody. The fact you don't see the person doing it and you see the shadow scare the crap out of me. But yeah, now they actually show the thing and you're like, all right, whatever. I mean, just like, you look at The Walking Dead, the first episode, it's the same thing over and over. I just don't get into that anymore.
I think they came up with a term for that, for that, Eddie. It's called jumping the shark from Happy Days. When Fonzie jumped the shark tank, that hit an all-time low. It was like, man, they ran out of ideas. And with The Walking Dead, I was such a big fan of that for about the first 7 seasons. I can't even watch it anymore. It's just, it's like so redundant. I can't stomach it anymore. I can't watch it.
Yeah, I think I watched the first 5 seasons, and then I'm like, every season's the same. They're running from zombies. They find a place to live. There's, some type of squabble with the people there. Then they all become friends. They fight zombies. Repeat.
The same
you know
thing.
what I think is wrong with that show? It doesn't have. I know it's supposed to be some type of nuclear disaster. Why are the people zombies? Why are they turning? There's really no. It doesn't tell much. And I got to tell you something. Regardless what it is, if God forbid I talk, I say something while my wife is watching an episode, I'm sleeping outside in the street that night. You know what I'm saying? I love the Blacklist. I think James Spader in the Blacklist is phenomenal. I personally got into that show. I know there's a lot of in fact, TV shows today are better written than movies from before. The only problem is that you can only watch so many of them without being caught up, and then you're stuck watching season. Then you're like anxious, waiting for the next episode, and that's the thing I hate, especially now that NBC decides the next episode of the Blacklist, which I'm dying to see, is like January 6th. So I've gone like 4 weeks, and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch it. So I kind of avoid weekly shows for that reason. I'd rather see the movie. And I got to tell you something, like, for example, this was kind of funny. Olympus Has Fallen was such a good film that actually had me fighting in some scenes. And my wife goes, are you going to fight the guy? I'm throwing punches like, get him,
Wow.
And that was kind of fun. Movies that I think are top notch today that were very well done, thought of, and I got to give Disney credit for this, is the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh,
The very first one. The very first one has everything I like, and I think Joe and you guys probably the same. You have skeletons, you got haunted ghost ships, you have pirates, treasure, and come on, man. Johnny Depp has got to be the best pirate ever.
Oh,
and the other guy, Captain Barbosa, those guys were born into that part.
Oh, great.
They're awesome. So that's my feel with overall.
Yeah, and I like their teeth on there, man. That's pretty realistic because they didn't really have things to brush their teeth with back in those days and everything. So they kept it realistic. That was kind of cool.
How about you, Joe?
I tell you what, you were talking about nuclear war movies, and there's one that I watched recently, which I'm going to save it for next week to leave everyone in suspense. But it is it was a made for TV movie from over in England, and some of the people might already know what I'm talking about, but it was probably one of the scariest movies I've ever watched, and it was kind of it's about this small village leading up to nuclear war, and then the after effects of nuclear war in decades past. And there's some gruesome scenes, but I tell you what, for any of us, and I lived, through the tail end of the Cold War. You guys, were in it kind of like in, towards the middle end. But I still remember, hiding under, desks doing those drills and all that in the 80s. So this movie, and somebody recommended it to me, and this movie was absolutely frightening. I mean, it was frightening on a level where you could feel it inside you, because there's always that threat that this could happen. And this movie was, it was spot on. And not only were the special effects great, the storyline was great. And we're going to definitely talk about it next week, because I've been wanting to mention it for a while. I think everyone out there that's a fan of horror movies, apocalypse movies, stuff like that, should definitely see this, and guaranteed it's going to frighten everybody. But it really goes to show, after watching this movie, what came out in the 80s, and you watch some of the post-apocalypse movies now, and man, did they really change from like the 50s? Because you've seen some of those post-apocalypse movies, and we always won. The good guys always kind of came out on top and beat the aliens, beat them back. And it seems like anymore it's almost like a lost cause. Do you guys see that too in the movies where we're always doomed?
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of movies I kind of tend to go for, Joe, are the ones that are abstract, where there's the ending. It's like up in the air, and there's like variables. Like I'm talking like about the Butterfly Effect, Vanilla Skies with Tom Cruise. Things like that, where the endings are so bizarre, where you really can't figure out what the ending really is. You know what I mean? There are movies like that, and they kind of get my attention the most. I don't know why, but it's just pretty cool.
Yeah. How about you, Ed? What do you think?
Well, I'm wondering, are you going to tell us the name of the movie at least?
No, I'm gonna. You know what? I am going to keep it a secret until next week because I
All
want
right.
you guys to tune in and everyone out there to tune in because I'm gonna tell you what this. I watched this movie and it downright frightened me. It's a
Wow.
frightening. It is a frightening movie, and I love scary movies. I don't get frightened much, but just watching it and thinking that this what they're showing. I mean, it's so. Um, it's just so realistic and it's the people that did the when I was reading up on it, the people that did the writing and all that, they actually researched kind of and talked to scientists on what it would be like, and they incorporated it into this movie, and it's crazy to think that it could happen. I mean, it is a very
Hmm.
frightening movie to say the least, but I'm going to keep it for next week, man. Keep everybody on the edge of their seats for it.
All right.
All
Yes.
right. I mean, but other than that, I do feel the same way. That I mean, it could be. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly. I'm still trying to think of the name. I was actually trying to look it up now for what they called that thing that was used back in the 50s when they had an underlying message. Um, it says with the screaming skull, we guarantee to bury the victim. Oh, no, I like the way it says free. We guarantee to bury you without charge if due to the frightening, if you die due to fright during the screaming skull. What is it called? It was called oh my god. You guys don't remember, Joe, what I'm talking
No,
about?
I can't. No, and
I can't.
you'll probably think about it tonight when you're laying in bed. You'll be like, "Oh shit, this is it right here."
It's called something like psychedelic or something.
Psychokinesis.
No,
I
no,
don't.
no, 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 no. You got to look at it. I thought the screaming skull was one of them, but I don't see it here. It's something that they try to put an underlying message. And I'm sure a lot of listeners probably are telling me, Eddie, it's this, it's this. And they're probably
Psychological. Is it a psychological thriller type of thing? Is that what you're
it's
trying
no,
to
no,
say?
it's what it is that it has an underlying message.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like it hits your subliminal.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
you're
Subliminal.
way off. Psychokinesis.
Oh
Yeah,
my God,
subliminal.
subliminal. Yeah, they try to do that, and with the way they played that off in old films, I think the Screaming Skull. I'm not seeing it here, but I think there was one or 13 Ghosts. Some, but what they would do is they would flash things in the background to try to subliminal whatever
Oh,
do things
okay.
to your
Okay, I
brain.
know. Right.
And that was used a lot in the 1950s. I don't think, it's kind of like when you go back now, let's say to virtual reality. I remember when I got married in 1983, I remember going to a mall and you would pay like $10. That was a lot in 1983 for a ticket. And you would go on this round thing in the center of the mall. It was like a stage where you have a sword and you wear this 3D glasses or virtual reality glasses and you fight and you were in the virtual, all this. So virtual reality was made big during the early 80s, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden it disappeared from the world. Like what happened to it? Of course, what happened was is that they found out that a lot of kids were getting major headaches watching
Mm-hmm.
virtual reality. All of a sudden, now it's come back again. Somebody's trying to get money out of it, and you have major companies in Hollywood spending millions of dollars coming up with all this virtual reality stuff. But they don't tell people it causes headaches. Like if you do a Google search on it, you'll see that you stand with one of those things for a while, you get a headache. And a good example is, and I totally forgot about this, is I'm in my job, and one of the guys, because where I live, I mean, where I work, they have a lot of high-tech people working for, Google's, Yahoo, Facebook, and they're paid to develop this brand new technology. And this guy comes down with this, and I can't mention what it is and stuff because I think it's still in development. You got to try this, man. So he takes a picture of the surrounding, and the whole thing becomes virtual reality, right? I put on the thing, and I'm walking around with this thing, and it's like you're going into things. You can open rooms, move
Yeah,
tables.
I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like an Oculus type of thing you put
Yeah,
on
it
your.
is. But here's the
Yeah.
thing, Chuck and Joe. I'm walking around, and I got to tell you something. I did it for like 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. And that day, for like the rest of the day in the morning, I'm like, why the heck do I have this splitting headache that's right between my eyes? And it's weird. I told my wife, I wonder if I'm catching a cold because It's not in the top of my forehead. It's like right between my eyes that I'm getting this weird headache. And then it dawned on me, that's that stupid virtual reality thing.
Isn't that something? Wow.
But they don't tell that, but that's what it does. It causes major headaches. And I'm sure a lot of people out there that are watching virtual reality probably get the headaches and they're like, how come? What is this? Maybe I got to go to the doctor. They have no idea what it is. And that's the whole thing. They sell us on this. Like, for example, I got to tell you, they've come a long way with 3D. Oh my, you go to Walt Disney and there's some 3D effects there. I remember my little granddaughter tried to grab a little bird that flew out of the screen.
Yeah.
And it was coming like right at your nose, man. And like, I think, Chuck, I mentioned to you, when I went to see the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock,
right,
one of my favorite actresses, I sat, it was a 3D thing, and I sat in that extra large, what do they call those large theaters that are bigger than normal? Yeah, IMAX. And I sat right in the first row, okay? Wow. And I got this 3D glasses on, and I got to tell you, man, when that thing went around the earth and the space, it was actually floating right above my head. I was shocked.
It's amazing.
Well, the movie was not that super great in your house, but if you watched it in its giant screen like that, you could not be. I loved it. I loved it. And 3D has come a long way. You don't need the green and red glasses like the one you get in that magazine Dynamite. When we used to get Dynamite in Arrow Book Club or whatever it was, or what's the name of the other? It was oh my God, what's the name of that book club from the Random House? I think it was Random House. I've said it before that I used to like, but anyway, in school they gave us that weekend order. I used to love that, but I gotta tell you, Joe, the way they've come a long way in 3D, but I think with virtual reality, they've come a long way, but they got to do something about why it causes headaches on people.
I tell you what, I tried one of those virtual reality things not too long ago at a buddy's house, and it was I think it was a Jurassic Park one. So you were like sitting on this roller coaster, and dinosaurs would pop up, and you could shoot them and all that. My buddy, he goes, do you want a seat? I said, no. I said, I'll be fine. He goes, you might want to sit down. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. About 10 seconds into the thing, I had to sit down because it was so realistic and lifelike. And then real quick, because we're coming down to about 3 minutes here, there was another one where you're standing in the middle of the forest and dinosaurs will come up to you, and you could pretend like you're petting them and all that. And I tell you what, I'm standing there and I'm looking around. All of a sudden, a dinosaur moves and swings its tail, and I literally ducked down like I was dodging the tail. I mean, it was amazing. I tell you what, I couldn't believe it how how amazing. You could really get sucked into that world, and it's actually kind of scary too. We should do a whole podcast just on virtual reality and everything, but I couldn't believe it, and I was contemplating buying a virtual reality set, and I said, you know what? I said, I don't think this is something I need, because I could see myself getting really sucked into it. And like Eddie said, after a little while, it starts giving you a headache and everything. Yeah, and
it's not worth it.
Yeah, I was in it for maybe about 10, 15 minutes screwing around with the different programs, and my eyes actually hurt. They felt like they were kind of bugging out of my head. But well, hey guys, Joe, what's up? Go ahead, real quick, Eddie.
I was gonna say real quick, just to let you know that I actually, my son-in-law, he brought I think $800 and something virtual reality set, and there it is. He doesn't use it because of that reason. It's just, it hurts, man. It bothers you. It's great. It's a great idea, and it's a great selling point.
Yeah, but I think just like anything, it'll end up changing, over time, and it'll start getting better, just like all technology. But hey, we're down to about the last minute here, so we definitely want to say thank you to all of our listeners out there, all over the world. Thank you for tuning in every week, and keep on tuning in, because we got some great podcasts ideas coming up for the new year 2022. Check us out on we're on pretty much every platform out there, man. Subscribe to our channel, give us a good 5-star review, That way the algorithms pick us up and we get out to more people out there. Also, check us out on YouTube, House of the Unusual. Subscribe to our channel, like the videos. Eddie and Chuck are always putting out some great stuff every week, so definitely head over there and have some fun. Also, houseoftheunusual.com, our flagship site. We have a free forum site there, and you could join that and have a lot of fun. People are always showing off some great things, and that's all we got. So this is our final podcast of the new year. Happy New Year to everybody, and we will see you guys on the other side in 2022, and keep your eyes to the sky. Good night, everyone.
And guys,
God
bless everybody out there. Happy New Year. But I got to tell you one quick thing. Joe really blew my mind tonight with his knowledge of films from my era.
Absolutely.
All right.
Joe, kudos to you, Joe.
Good night, guys.
All right.
Good night.
God bless.
Bye-bye.